Welcome to Stream, a truck.tractor.trailer.com production. My name is Zach Miller. I'm your host, and I'm so honored to be joined today by Ellen Voie, who is the CEO of Women in Trucking, the Women in Trucking Association. Ellen, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me on, Zach. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. It's so great. There's always so much, I think, going on, especially, where we sit here as an industry right now, and in terms of, employment and recruitment. And I think there's we know as an industry we need to get both more women involved, more younger people involved. Obviously, there's a diagram that intersects with that, but one of the points that's been really driven home, and as I always like to say, pun intended here on Stream, is that when it comes to drivers, women tend to be safer drivers than men do.
You know, it's funny, not funny, but for years I tried to get that data because many organizations did not break down any of their research by gender. Because the trucking industry has been such a male populated industry that they didn't even think about it. In fact, a lot of companies didn't even know what percentage of their driving fleet was female. So when I started asking questions, and I would have to take anecdotal evidence from like automobiles and things like that. But the American Transportation Research Institute actually did crash causation study and broke it down by gender and found that or put it this way, male commercial drivers are 20% more likely to be involved in a crash in every statistically significant area, whether it's at night, on curves, intersections, 20% more than female drivers. And so it just reinforced the fact that women are risk averse. And so you want a safer person in the cab of that 80,000-pound vehicle, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think I'm so glad that message is really getting out there. And I mean, you and I offline, we spoke about this, that it's been really pushed on social media recently, that crash causation study and the percentages. And I think that ties in so much into something that we're starting in terms of the shift in women looking to enter trucking. Many of them are starting to do it now as a second career, as they graduated high school, they graduated college, they did something else and it wasn't working for their lifestyle anymore. And they view trucking and the ability to be a truck driver as something a little bit more in line with their current needs and goals. And I think that as we look to get more women into the industry, the notion of, hey, this is a job that you can do safely, and that you can support your family on.
So we did a study a few years back, a best practices study, and we found that 83% of female drivers come into the industry at the urging of a family member or friend. So this is typically a husband or and so they already know what the lifestyle is like, right? And the average age of a woman coming into the industry is 50. So that means her children are grown. And somebody, typically, again, a husband or boyfriend says, hey, go get your CDL and come out on the road with me. So most women come into the industry because of a family member or friend. Interestingly enough, we're finding a lot of women are coming into trucking from the medical field. They were burned out. And so, I did a quick survey yesterday on our Facebook page. We have about 11,000 members on there. And within an hour, I had pretty significant response. And medical was at the top along with retail and hospitality. So think about during the pandemic when hospitality careers basically stopped. I mean, hotels and if you worked at convention centers or you worked in conferences or maybe even entertainment venues, that stopped. So they lost their jobs. Retail, a lot of retail was affected. But surprisingly, the fact that they're coming from the medical field, it meant because they were burned out.
You're exactly right. I could have guessed retail. I could have guessed hospitality. I never would have guessed medical. That's freaky. And what might be, as you sort of refresh that study next year, the year after that, I'm curious if education goes up that list? Because I know that many in the education field are getting burned out as well, similar to the medical field. And I wonder if maybe now, same situation. If you have a woman who her kids are, maybe they're in college, maybe they're grown, maybe she was a teacher for 20 years and she's like, I've had it, maybe trucking makes sense for me.
Yeah, that's a good. I didn't see a high level of influx from the education, and I had education slash childcare. I didn't
Yeah,
see that as a career that they left, but surprisingly, the medical career. And I was at a conference just last week, and I had a roundtable discussion with 7 women at a table. 2 of them came from the medical field out of the 7. So
that's incredible. That really is incredible. Like a tidbit there, I don't think any of our listeners would have expected. I certainly don't or didn't. But it does tie into something that you and I have talked about for a little bit, is that even with consolidation, right? Even with a lot of the mergers that we're seeing in the industry, this industry is still very much a family business type of operation. So many trucking companies are still that family business. So many of the new entrants, your owner operators, like you said, it could be, a boyfriend, husband will be like, hey, come on the road with me. I could use you on the road. Let's build this business together.
yeah, and what's really good about the family part? I used to see trucks that say Smith and Sons, right? Smith
Yeah.
and Sons truck. Well, what's really neat is more and more daughters are taking over, and driving, or whether it's running the company. We have quite a few members where the dad started the trucking company and the daughter took it over. And so it's not just assumed that the son is the best prospect to take it over. So I'm really happy to see that these days women are just as considered just as capable as men in taking over a trucking company, because it's not women can do this.
Exactly. And I agree. I think that's so great too. And I think I've seen it just in New York with some of the companies that I work with in the state of New York. It's exactly like you said. Father or grandfather, or maybe grandfather started the company, father uncle took it over, and it's the daughter, it's the women of that next generation that are taking the reins, really. And many of the men are either doing something else in the business or leaving the business entirely and going to do something else with their careers. It's really interesting to see it happening.
The best part about it is that it's not automatically assumed that it's the son's taking it over.
I totally agree. And I think even something subtle like that, right? Like if people start to look at it and say, hey, we can no longer assume it's going to be the son or the brother or the nephew that's going to take over the business. It very well could be daughter, daughter-in-law, niece. That right there, that little shift already starts people thinking of, hey, this is a industry that's friendly and open to women, and we'd love to get more women involved.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody wanted to join or reach out to Women in Trucking. How do they go about doing that?
So our website is womenintrucking.org, and they can just click on the button that says join. But Zach, we have a lot of resources on there, whether they're a member or not. We just started a new driver portal. So if you click on the tab driver, we've got a lot of information to help answer questions that someone might have, male or female, before they come into the industry, like how to choose a school, how to choose a carrier, what about my health, what about finances? And a new one we just added, because a lot of these questions is, can I have a felony and be a truck driver? We're getting that, so we have those resources on our driver tab, free to anyone, because we want them to be better prepared and know what questions to ask.
That is, can you have a felony, or does it depend on the felony? I guess probably.
It depends on the felony, and it depends on who you're hauling for. and what you're hauling. So like, obviously if you're hauling government munitions, you wouldn't be, but if the felony is concerns children, or whether it's money or drugs, it depends on the felony. But just a quick, a funny one, that Waste Management is on my board of directors, and I asked them, I said, will you hire felonies? And they said, absolutely. And we don't care if they stole stuff, because what are they going to steal? Garbage? So if it's a theft felony, go to Waste Management.
I love that. But I love, it's great that you have that resource, but it really also, that speaks to the being more proactive with recruiting as an industry, because really the truth is, and look, we're not going to sit here and solve the, criminal justice issues that we have here in this country, but I am of the belief that I really hate the way we treat people after they leave the system. It's like, if the cliche is, if you weren't going to do the time, don't do the crime. It's like, okay, but if you did the time, you should be able to get out and re-enter society. And part of that is being able to find, meaningful jobs and job placements. And I'm really glad that trucking is looking at that pool as another, resource to recruit from.